Hello, everyone. It's the beginning of a new season here on Trafford Talk, and we've been away for a bit, mulling over a few things, and let's just say life has got in the way. But you join us for another waffle session. This one a little bit more organised than the ones we normally do. Myself and Alexei tonight, along with the help of our, absent friend Robbie, will be predicting our Premier League table as well as Manchester United's hopes for this upcoming season. We're very excited to be finally back at it this weekend at home to Leeds United. It does actually kick off tomorrow when Brentford play Arsenal, but trust me,
we all know when it really starts.
We know.
I mean, it's the most excited I've been for a football match since. Because we've not been able to go to Old Trafford for so long, being able to go on Saturday after 18 months. Can't believe it. It's just the sense of waking up, thinking, I'm going to the game today, getting on the tram, getting there, and it's just brilliant. I can't wait. And I'm going to get there very, very early because there's been problems with trams apparently.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to be there about 10 a.m, which for a match day it's quite early because usually it's later, but I think they've put that in place to stop people getting absolutely hammered, I guess. But yeah, no, I'm sorry, I've gone off on a tangent already. Right, we'll start doing our predictions, Ahmed, because I'm really excited about the Leeds game. I could waffle about that for ages, but
we will go into it in our preview show tomorrow. So if you want to join us for that, everybody, feel free to. Probably be in the evening. We'll do a preview for that. First one for the season. Myself and Alexei, should he be free once again, we'll cover all bases. We should have Varane announced by then, hopefully, before the end of our lives at least. And we'll be able to assess who will be in contention to play, what to expect from Leeds, unless we don't know anything about them already. So we're doing something a little technical, which you may have seen during the Euros. We had a share screen tactic. We didn't know about this before Robbie discovered it randomly on an afternoon while doing these Euro for Fantasy League. So I've incorporated it again tonight, and you will see.
So this is where all the budget goes. Look at this. Wow.
Exactly. We've spent quite a bit of money to sort this one out, boys and girls.
Wow.
So on the BBC Sport website, they traditionally every year for the last 4 seasons given the fans the opportunity to make their own predictions as to who they think should finish where in the Premier League. Now, to obviously avoid making ourselves biased, and obviously we do favour Manchester United, we're going to sort of become neutral football pundits now for a bit of time, reflecting on who we think will be the ones that secure the title, although it looks quite obvious who we may think it's going to be. Who will be fighting for Europe and also the basement of the Conference League. And finally, the 3 sides that will be contending for relegation and the other ones who will be having a right on hoo-ha of themselves, figuring out whether they'll survive or not. Now, I like to do things the old-fashioned way. We never start from the top because that just kills the excitement. So we start from the bottom. Right. Alexei, I know you're itching to get on with this, so let's do it.
Right. 20th, Norwich.
Oh boy!
What thoughts?
Every single team is there. Norwich. Well, I said this last week. I felt they have not made the purchases necessary to be able to survive in the league, and they are nowadays known as a up and down Premier League team, more or less what West Brom have been for the last decade or so when it comes to moving in and out of the Premier League. So Norwich have been in the division, if we're counting over the last 10 years, 4 times, and have only ever stayed up in that period once, I think, or over a 2-season period. So they've got history in the Premier League, but whether this team can do it under Farke or not.
I'm sorry, but every other year they come up, right? Everyone goes, oh, look, they've got some good players we're excited about. They play Liverpool on the first day. Liverpool used to beat them 4 or 5-0. And then they might have one good win a season like they did against City, and then they go down again. It happens every other year. Their squad isn't any better than the last time they were up. And I believe they came bottom last time they were up. And they've lost Buendia to Villa. So there's no real evidence to suggest that they'll do any better this time. So are we agreed on Norwich, Ahmed? Is that contentious for you?
It can't be contentious, in my honest opinion. I'm just going to zoom in a bit so I can get a lot more of the table. There we go.
Ooh,
so, There you go. Looks a lot of bit of zoom in so you can just see this.
Yeah,
we are spending a lot of money on this show. Our wallets are already suffering for it. And all the waffles we've eaten.
This is what we pay our license fee for.
Yes, it is. And they should repay us more often. 19th. What are you saying here, Alexei?
This is controversial, this one. This is
okay, here we go.
What I was trying to rush Norwich through, because that's fairly uncontroversial. And obviously we're going to spend more time on the controversial ones. I've gone Southampton.
Okay.
The reason I've gone Southampton is they've lost Danny Ings. They are losing Vestergaard as well. They've not really brought in replacements. Their form from basically around the time they beat Liverpool to the end of the season was woeful. They lost practically every game. Their manager is extremely overrated. He has about 5-6 good games a season generally, and then lives off that, and then they lose every week. And I just think it's one of those stories with Southampton, kind of a bit like with what happened to Watford or Stoke, where they've been all right for a bit, but all the kind of bad results they've had over the years are going to finally come back to bite them this year. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they came 20th even. But yeah, I think Southampton 19th. Ahmed, is that controversial? What are your thoughts?
Not necessarily, but they have lost Yannick Vestergaard to Leicester City. And Danny Ings, obviously, the focal point of that team, moving on to Aston Villa. A number of players I feel this season are really going to be put under the cosh. Whether James Ward-Prowse is a Southampton player after August 31st is going to be an interesting topic of interest. But they are a team for me that are in a bit of I'd say a difficult situation. They do have a manager who, contrary to Alexei's opinion, I don't disrate him. I think he has this ability to get a performance out of the team. And on a number of occasions last season, or when we were able to watch Southampton play, and one match against Brighton comes to mind when they lost 2-1 at home. They have these spurts in games where they do make some chances. They do start to worry their opposition a bit more. But they had a defence that leaked so many goals. And a perfect example was our victory there against them at St. Mary's in November, I think it was, when we went there with 2-0 down at half-time, despite more or less playing okay first 10-15 minutes. But they scored two good free kick for Ward-Prowse and a Bednarek corner, which exposed our frailties from set pieces as usual. But it never looks like after Ollie made the changes to have secured that advantage and suddenly started letting goal after goal in right up to the point where Cavani scored the winner. And that was that's an early sign of things to come for them, I think. And they're just going to get... It might get worse and worse. Yeah. It does in a way.
That sums them up, doesn't it? Like they have a good spurt and then they just concede loads of goals and look woeful. So, yeah, and, you know, they've lost 9-0 2 years in a row. I mean, the fact you can collapse that, like, catastrophically 2 years in a row. I know the one against Stars was slightly unlucky, but 9-0 2 years in a row. Teams have had 9 men in other games and not lost 9-0. I remember Chelsea, it happened to them against us. They lost 3-2, which is fairly respectable with 9 men. You shouldn't be losing 9-0. I don't mean to sound like Roy Keane, but it's your job, you know, to not lose 9-0.
I can't disagree.
Are we okay with Southampton on 9? Are we okay with Southampton on 19th then?
It's a controversial decision because I'll show you my predictions that I used in the tier list later on. But as a joint prediction, I'm gonna say with the fact that they have just lost their focal point up front and a very important player in Vestergaard at the back, they will be a team that I think will struggle to really get a start going this season. And we play them early on, so if I'm a Man United fan, I'm quite excited at the prospect of playing them. But let's not count our chickens before they hatch. But yes, we'll say for now. We'll stay there 19th. Okay, so you've decided then.
If I say anything crazy, feel free to stop me and like argue against it. Because I'm about to drop another.
A bombshell again.
Yeah, 18th.
Okay, here we go then.
Drum roll, please.
I don't have enough fingers.
18th place. They're a team that I believe are geographically situated quite near where you based.
Yes,
Palace.
that's true. Oh wow, Crystal
Yeah.
Palace. That's a bold call.
And I'll tell you my reasoning. They have lost a fair proportion of their squad, which, to be fair, was aging, but similar to Southampton, their form has been pretty terrible for quite a long time. They've brought in a few players. Some of them look decent, but we don't know how they're going to do. And the problem is as well, they've got Patrick Vieira as their manager. Now, there is no evidence at all to suggest that Patrick Vieira can manage. And to be fair to him, it's very difficult to manage when you're having to rebuild a whole squad at the same time. Now, for lower teams, it's very rare that wholesale changes in their squad work. I remember we saw it with Villa with Paul Lambert, where they tried to make loads of changes and they went down. Fulham went down, QPR went down. I can't see a scenario in which all these changes at Palace work. They've had this stability with Roy Hodgson for a bit, where they've been all right. I think Roy's done a very good job, but that's about to stop. And for that reason, I think Palace will go down. And to be honest, I think Vieira could be out of a job by about October, honestly.
We're having that Ronald de Boer scenario here again, aren't we, with Palace, where they'll struggle for a long time into the early 10 or 11 games into the season. They didn't win a game under de Boer when he was manager in the first 11, 12 matches in 2017. So they've made some smart signings. I'd say bringing like Joachim Andersen in, Mark Gahey's joined them. There's a couple that will probably solidify the backline a bit more. They've yet to replace Angus Townsend yet, however, which is something that I feel will, for me, be of interest. But I don't think it's relegation worthy for me, Crystal Palace, on the basis that they can rely on their home form to get them out of trouble. And half the time, most of the games that they tend to win are at home. They don't do many away days, unless it's Brighton, which is a story of its own right. But this for me is probably one of the first decisions I think, which is a little bit ludicrous. And I'll be honest, I think a team from the promoted sides will be in that spot. Yeah, one of the promoted sides will probably be there, and I can see why you've made the case that both Watford and Brentford are possible survivors. But I just think for Brentford, they've yet to really get a team in that, for me, will solidify themselves in the, let's say, bottom six, but away in that 3-horse race to survive from the relegation drop. So, for me, I think it will be Brentford instead of Crystal Palace. And I think Palace will be there and thereabouts, but not actually go down. So, my feeling is Brentford. You're going with Palace.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough one, but it's a tough one. It's our first impasse. We have to wait up at even state here.
What about Palace 17th, Watford 18th?
That for me, I think makes a bit more sense. So if let's say I put that. All right, so if I just whack in Watford here, and I think I could, whoops, there we go. I can swap them. That's 19th place. So, all right, hang on. I've got to make sure I do this correctly. So, this is a system I've not very often used. So, we've got Watford in the relegation zone, and Crystal Palace just outside it. Okay, so there we go. We have Palace and Watford. Yeah,
and then in that case, I think it's also fair if we put Brentford 16th. Then should we do that?
All right, give me your reasons as to why you feel Brentford should be as a Premier League team in 22-23.
I think what I'm quite impressed by them is their manager and the way they play. It's very identity driven, and everyone clearly knows what they're doing. I think Ivan Toney's a really good player, and even though they didn't go up the year before, they did look like a really, really good side, and I think they look like a side that will do well. It's this kind of unity. It's not like, because some teams come up, like Watford, for example. We'll quickly touch on them. Watford's manager will probably be gone in 3 months. There's not going to be any clarity of where they're going or what they're doing, right? Brentford have a very good manager in place. He knows what he's doing. The players buy into what he's doing. And I think you can't underestimate the importance of that. Like we saw when Huddersfield came up, a similar thing, or with Leeds as well. I don't think you can underestimate the importance of having a manager and a team that are completely on the same page, because that's not going to be the case at other clubs. Vieira coming in at Palace, I mean, he's trying to play progressive football. Will it work? Who knows? It's very different from Roy Hodgson. There's no evidence that he's put it in place yet. He's just come in. And, so I think having a manager who knows what's going on and players that know what's going on can really help. And that's why I think they'll finish above a team like Palace and Watford, who probably won't have much clarity about what's going on at all and could descend into chaos, because even if Brentford lose a few games, I think they'll still keep the manager and stick to what they're doing. And yeah, I think that's really important. But yeah, that's my reasoning.
I'm just looking at Watford's incomings for the season in this current window. Modest ones at best. They've brought experienced header Juraj Kucka from Parma in. Got relegated to the second division in Italy, unfortunately. Josh Kingon is a free transfer. Oghe Atebo from Stoke on a free transfer. Emmanuel Dennis, who scored 2 goals in a Bernabeu once. Danny Rose, Ashley Fletcher, Imran Lusa, and Kwadwo Bar. Not a lot of these players will start for them in the league next season. I only see that of Rose, Lusa, and Dennis probably being in that team. Maybe Josh King and Kuchka too. But that's not much of a strengthening for me. So that's probably why I will agree on Watford being where they are. And I feel like Palace will still be in and around this area. I just don't see them getting relegated, because let's say Vieira does manage to get half the season done with them in and around, let's say, not in the relegation, but just hovering above it. You tend to see later on in the season that they'll pick up form and maybe get some results that start to go in their favour while the teams below them struggle. So I can see where this is going, but I'll agree on that. And Brentford, it's a big call to say they'll survive, especially as they're the playoff winners. It tends to be that the weakest team that comes into the Premier League are the playoff winners normally. And sometimes there are sides that can't acquit themselves very well in the Premier League. For the first time, and especially because they're under the spotlight tomorrow against Arsenal, we're going to learn a lot about Brentford's,
They'll beat Arsenal. They'll 100% beat Arsenal. I'm not joking, honestly.
Okay. I believe what you say, honestly. I think sometimes, whatever Alexei says, half the time I believe it. And then the rest of it, I think, well, sometimes it's pugwash. But on this occasion, I think I just think they have, for that first night feel, and it's in front with the fans there too, they will want to impress them. They want to give them a show.
Yeah.
They want to prove that they belong in the league. So I would probably say, Brentford to win tomorrow night. But they've still got 37 other games to play after that. So we'll judge them on not one match and 37 of the other ones as well. So, but the best of luck to them tomorrow. It's a big night for them. So we've done that. So we've got 5 of the bottom stiff. Yeah, 5 of them sorted. What's next?
Right, 15th. We've got a toss-up here between Burnley or Newcastle.
Okay.
Remember,
we have friends 15th? With Newcastle fans. Oh, okay, there we go. That's fine. So Sean Dyche's Burnley 15th.
And then Newcastle 14th. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
All right. Modestly, they're probably the best positions that both sides could finish in. There's a lack of ambition at Newcastle at the moment, not from the players on the pitch or the fans. And I think we know better than anyone how much passion the fans have. But a sign of how uncertain they are about this season is demonstrated by the local fanzine saying that they've not sold all their tickets for their opening game against Norwich on Sunday, against West Ham on Sunday, and they will probably be very concerned about that. They're bringing in only Joe Willock, but the rest of that team, as long as Alisson Maximin stays fit, he'll be their main man this season. If they keep him fit, they have every chance of being in the Premier League next season. I think, however, everything for Newcastle in the first 5 months of this season does not hinge on their league position. I think the football will be a focal point, but I think a lot of the fans' concern is now transfixed on that takeover appeal against the Premier League and whether that can get overturned in the new year. So if they get that sorted and the investment does get approved to come in, then there'll be a whole different team in January, I think, because they'll bring players in immediately rather than wait till the summer.
Yeah.
Mike Ashley will have to go at some point because it gets to the point where you start to think it's getting ludicrous now with him, and he's playing with these fans' feelings. I feel sorry for them, and they deserve more than just 14th in the Premier League, in my opinion. I could waffle all night about Newcastle, but we've got to give Burnley a bit of hope. And yes, as long as Sean Dyche is there, they have a great chance for me of surviving in the Premier League again. Whether, though, they can, muster up any more than just a 15th place position is hard for me. I think they'll be in that area where they'll scrap in the bottom 6. They will be playing very aggressively away from home to avoid conceding as many goals. We've seen enough of that last season when we played them back-to-back in the home and away game. The home game in particular, we were for a long time struggling to break them down before eventually scoring. So it's a testament for me that Burnley for me are more or less a side that are just living on really what they have, and their focal point being Chris Wood. They've still got a number of the players that Dyche brought in 4 or 5 years ago, but the team played to his instructions, to how he wants them to, and it works. And if Burnley fans are satisfied being in the Premier League mid-table positions, I think they won't mind it, so as long as they know that this season is again a season where they'll be looking to progress further up the table than 15th spot. But there is a lot of tough teams above them, so yeah.
So just quick, we've got Carl, who is my mate in real life. He said he's tweeting his predictions if we need any help. We will have a look at your predictions as well, Carl, see what you've been going on. Something tells me he's probably put Man United in quite a low position due to his Liverpool connections.
Fair income.
He's got his 4th. It's not too unreasonable.
What's he got as the bottom? Give us his bottom 3. I'm happy to hear everyone else's predictions. Please put them in the comments at your leisure. I'm going to quickly just grab that.
Right. So Carl's bottom 3 is interesting. Very similar to ours, in fact.
Yep.
Southampton, Watford, and Norwich. That is ours, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is ours. It's the same.
That is ours. So we have Southampton and Norwich in the bottom 3.
Yeah, so he's agreed. So we're not completely crazy. Should we we'll move on to 13th and 12th. So we'll speed up the mid-table bit a bit. So because when we get to European,
we get to the important part, obviously, yes. It's not boring, I promise, but we are trying to be succinct with how we talk about this because these go off for hours normally.
So 13th, have we done 13th?
We are on 13th.
Or are we doing 13th?
There you go.
Right, okay, I'm about to drop a bombshell.
Here we go.
Right, in 13th place in the Premier League in what year are we in? 2021, 2022 is, drumrolls, Everton. Oh. And I'll tell you for why. Their signings have been laughable.
Average.
Andros Townsend is somebody that a team like Watford should be going for, or Newcastle. Everton are meant to be knocking on the door of the big 6 or 7. They're just buying players to kind of get themselves solidly mid-table or below.
That's what we said about them last season when they brought 3 players in. Those 3 top-class players when Ancelotti was in charge. But we thought we were going to break top 6 this season. That with those signings, James Rodriguez. What was it? Who else did they bring in? Alan. Actually, let me just scroll down. I think I can look back. Brent Godfrey came in as well. Abdullah Doucouré. They improved that midfield so much. And they didn't finish badly last season, but this season, now he's gone.
Poor. Yeah. Well, do you know what? Right. I think Everton, earlier when we were talking about Brentford and I was saying about how I thought their manager, they all knew what was going on, so it went well.
Yes.
Benitez isn't going to get through to these Everton players. It reminds me a bit of when he went to Madrid. It's just not going to connect at all.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of scandal around the club as well for various reasons. Not a great atmosphere. And people forget sometimes. At Everton, with managers, it can get so toxic. Look what happened with Sam Allardyce and Koeman and stuff like that. And even Martinez. The fans really turn. And they're not going to like Benitez. And I don't blame them because why should they? He's a Liverpool manager. He'll play very pragmatic football, which, I mean, it's just like having Sam Allardyce again for them. I think it will all blow up in their faces. And I think 13th. And that is really disappointing for Everton, but that's where I see them finishing. Do you agree to some extent?
Just based on, I think we've watched Everton against us last week. Okay, it's a friendly. You make many substitutions and all that, but their starting 11 more or less was a team that would play against United in the Premier League. And there are some concerns that will probably give Everton fans a bit more to chew on this season. They would like to be, I think they'd like to be in Europe. That's their first feeling. They think they have a fair shot with the team that they have at a European spot. So it's Europa League or Conference League that they would aim for. If Benitez is going to struggle though to get through to this team, I think where they'll finish based on your prediction is a fair assessment.
Yeah,
they can though rely on Dominic Calvert-Lewin. They can rely on at times the pace of. They used to rely on Bernard. They don't have that pace anymore. They can rely on Doucouré in the midfield and Allen. Those two, they'll have to be very important players this season.
That's it. They've got good players, but I just think it's not going to work with the manager. And yeah, I just can't. I can't see them doing well at all, to be honest. And yeah, like you said, they do have good players, but I just don't see it.
They'll be modestly there. They'll be modestly there.
Yeah.
I feel though that get the run of wins going mid-season. Not early on is too hard. It's too early to call. But if we see them in and around top 10 mid-season, and Benitez is getting one or two things right, not necessarily defending them here, but I think they can improve. If they can get in top 10, let's see how they finish the season. But yeah, Benitez probably, in terms of the character they have at the club and who especially the fact that across Stanley Park, there's a fair few that would remember him for the things he did for them. And Everton fans just generally won't have the same sort of feeling towards Benitez on the basis that he was a Liverpool manager. You don't find many ex-Liverpool bosses switching allegiances during their career.
It's not going to work. It's like when Benitez went to Chelsea. He's just not going to be welcomed at all. It's not going to work. I mean, speaking of clubs who've just had quite a significant managerial change, moving on to 12th place, I think this will be a quick one because I think we'll be in agreement on this one. Wolves.
Yeah. Bruno Lage, for me, unproven in the Premier League. He's done well in Portugal with Benfica. They've not won the league though for a little while now. I think it's been 4 years since Benfica won the league. So he's been poached from there because obviously you can see the connection really, largely Portuguese involvement in the club with Chinese ownership. There is a bit of uncertainty though about the finances of the Chinese owners now, whether they're able to continue funding the club with the signings that they need to continue being as a team that challenges or breaks top 10 in the Premier League. Last season, for me, obviously, the horrible injury to Raul Jimenez probably was one of the biggest detriments to their season, on top of going far into the Europa League and getting knocked out by Sevilla so harshly. So I wish they had beaten them instead. But going so far into the season, of course, would have drained those players in 2020. So that, like Manchester United and others who went far into, United Wolves last in that season, went far and suffered for it in the way their season sort of works out in the end. Realistically, they have something to be hopeful for, though. Adama Traore, one of the best players in the Premier League for me. They brought in Francis, Jimenez back as well with the headgear. Still a threat, no matter what, regardless of the Wolves team that you play, he's always going to be a threat. They brought in Francisco Trincao from Barcelona. Yes, Barca jettisoned him for the season because they wanted to keep Messi. It didn't work. They'll regret letting him go out on loan now for sure because they've only got Dembele down the right-hand side and who else? So Trincao for me will be a revelation this season in the Premier League. A lot of other people who've not watched him at Barca or at Braga for that matter in the year before when he broke out into the team. They're going to learn a lot about this guy and what he can do given the opportunity. They still have Ruben Neves now. Whether he's still there or not at the end of the window is a question that we can't answer, but we'll have to wait and see. I think, though, modestly, Wolves being 12th, it's not. I wouldn't say it's about right for them. I think they want to be, like I said with Everton, they'll want to be higher up in the table, pushing for the Conference League spot. And I think the fans are still addicted to that European drug. They got that in the Europa League in 2019-20. So they want those kind of nights back at Molineux. They want to enjoy them those evenings, even if it is Thursday nights. They'll take them for what they are because they value those. They cherish those. They'll remember the nights against Espanyol, against Slovan Bratislava, going past the last 16. Those, I guess, Olympiacos, those are all memories the fans will cherish, and they want to have those back. So if they get higher up in the league, I think generally we'll both be surprised because that would mean something good's happening there. If their season is a tough one because of the nature of how the top 10 is going to look, and we're going to get into it shortly, they'll probably find themselves in the top 10 at the beginning of the season, midway through, and then not so necessarily fall off, but just struggle to pick up results against the sides that are chasing something towards the end. So, Wolves 12 for me.
Right. So we're going to do 11, 10, 9 quickfire.
Go on, then.
Because obviously when we get to European places, it's going to get very juicy. It
is.
11th Brighton,
okay.
10th Arsenal, and 9th West Ham.
Okay, right. This is a big call from Alexei. I'm happy Gal's not here. He's a friend of the channel, and he would probably laugh at you for saying that. Now, team by team, Alexei, I want you to tell me why you've gone with these three predictions, and I'll follow up afterwards.
So the reason I've gone with Brighton in 11th is obviously, it's become a joke, hasn't it? But all the kind of underlying statistics from their games last season kind of suggest that they should be higher than they are. But I also think, kind of like I've said before about other teams, I look at Everton, I look at Newcastle, Watford, Palace. I don't think those teams know what they're doing. To be honest, I don't think they know what their philosophy is or how they're meant to play. They've not got this unity, whereas Brighton are a really well-drilled team. I think they do need a centre forward, but I just think the way they play is really impressive. But yeah, I think they've got a system that's sustainable in the Premier League. They've got Lamptey, who's really, really impressive player. And yeah, I just see them as a much more unified squad than the ones below them, to be honest. And I think that's important. It's not going to get toxic there. 10th, Arsenal.
Deep breath.
I was thinking of putting them lower, to be honest, but I thought I'd compromise and put Arsenal as 10th. I mean, they've come 8th the last 2 years. There's no real bright sparks for Arsenal at the moment. The defence is still pretty terrible. Midfield's still pretty terrible. The attack, bar Saka, and I guess maybe Aubameyang, it's just not great, is it? I love Saka. I think he's great, but the rest of them, not great at all. There's no evidence that Mikel Arteta can actually manage a football team at all. I mean, how he survived after last season's beyond me. I just don't see things getting better for Arsenal at all. Newcastle was crazy. And then, 9th West Ham. What are your thoughts, Ahmed, on those three?
All right. As I unfortunately, when I look at my phone, I look at the incomings they've made for each of the clubs, and I question whether it's warranted the position they're in. With this one, I have to agree with you because Brighton have really not gone and made really any improvements to the side that they've already got. They play attractive football, but they are compromised by more or less not scoring goals. We've all made that joke about the expected goals for Brighton and how they are failing to score enough goals in their in the Premier League. Had they done so, they wouldn't be finishing where they finished the last couple of seasons. But this is now their fifth season, I think. Yeah, fifth season. So they're starting to become an established Premier League team. They've got a good defense. They've solid midfield. Even Basuma, the focal points of that midfield. Their attack is an average one, I have to say. They don't have a striker nowadays who will score them 10, 15 goals, the ones that they need to consider themselves outside in that area of the league. Whether Graham Potter, though, can get a couple more in, I don't know. They've only brought in Enoch Mwepu and Kjell Scherpen. And if those of you watched Roma versus Ajax last season in the Europa League, you'll know a bit about Kjell Scherpen and his howler he had on that night. So that's the only thing he's popular for. Arsenal is the first biggest call we've made so far, I think. For me, I'll finish a little higher than 10th. And that's just because they don't have European football. But there's also the factor that they will be a team that on and off this season. They'll turn up in big games and struggle against the mid-table teams, and sometimes against one of the new promoted sides, or those you're fighting for relegation. They lost too many home games last season, which is an uncharacteristic thing for a club of Arsenal's stature. And
they lost most of them, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They lost way too many, and it probably makes up a good chunk of their overall record from last season. So there's a lot of fans that think they're going to be a top 4 team this season. First of all, if your defense is leaking goals like that at home to Aston Villa, West Ham, Chelsea, for example, even though they won 3-1 last season, they still leaked a goal and couldn't keep a clean sheet. The basic know-how of a football game is that you must not let the other team score. And Arsenal can't not do that. The last time they managed to keep a clean sheet that they'd be satisfied with was when we went to the Emirates and drew 0-0, when we had the lion's share of the chances in that game. So United that night should really have come away with 3 points. But ultimately, that point proved to be one of those that at the time we were near the top of the table, it was probably one of those that made a difference to how close we would be to City at the end of the season. But they only turn up in big games, and that's not enough for me. You've got to do more as a club, not just on the pitch, but off it, to encourage the fans. Obviously, they're one of the clubs involved originally in that Super League proposal. For love nor money, they shouldn't have been there. There's obviously, like there's been at multiple other clubs involved in that situation, dissension and frustration about the intentions that owners were going with that idea. So they're not doing the best job at the moment, especially for the fans on a PR front, to, let's say, mend that relationship. It will take a long time for Arsenal to get out of this hole they're in. On the pitch, though, the only reason they should be higher than 10th for me is Aubameyang. It is his goals, and it's without those goals that they finished so low last season. He had his challenges. He had his personal issues, which is understandable. But when he's there, he has to contribute more. And it becomes frustrating. Even as a neutral fan, I am frustrated watching Arsenal because that's a team that shouldn't be where they are. They should be higher in the leagues than 10th or 9th or 8th, in my opinion, or where we were predicting. They should realistically, as they say nearly last few years now, they've said we should be pushing top 4. We should have Champions League football at our ground. The worst thing is that for them is that even in Europa League, when you're more or less a team who are favourites to win it, you can't get past your old manager's team, and he went on to win it. So it's a big slap in the face.
It looks like Unai Emery took a step forward and Arsenal took a step back.
There you go.
That's what it
if they stuck with him, look what would have happened if they stuck with him. Instead of going and pulling the trigger as they did, which I felt was unjust at the time, like as honest opinion, it was unjust to sack him because he has just taken you to a Europa League final. Yes, it did not reward you with the trophy you wanted because Chelsea that night were just played them off the park.
Yeah, they were
really. Yeah, exactly. They played them off the park in Baku. There is literally no real feeling for me that they would gain anything from sacking Unai Emery. They had that little revival under Arteta and then fell off towards the end of the season. I really think that it was fans won't admit it. I know that for sure, but they were wrong to assume that Emery was not the man because he should have first of all given a bit more time. He should have been allowed to see him through another campaign in the Europa League. They would have been semi-finalists for me had they not having a calamity of the Olympiacos game. Then the following season strengthened further. There is a lot wrong at Arsenal at the moment on and off the pitch. So while 10th for me is a fair assessment of their fortunes in both aspects, my expectation for them and my personal feeling is they will finish higher and they want European football. But
the compromise on this we can make is, if you want, we can swap West Ham and Arsenal.
Yeah, because I'll make a quick thought on West Ham and why I think they'll finish where Arsenal were supposed to finish. They have the Europa League this season, but don't have a squad. Alexei, there is no one in that. There's barely anyone in that team. They have their first 11, which is a decent first 11. And that was, for them to have achieved even a top 6 finish was remarkable. A remarkable achievement for West Ham. And this year, they've not had to worry about meeting Astra Giurgiu in the qualifying rounds. So they go straight into the group phase, which will be the London Stadium full for a European game. Something that they would have never thought. They would have thought would have been a bit more, a bit more blue and purpley coloured instead of the black and orange they're going to see on their stadium walls. But they'll take it. I think West Ham will just enjoy the journey where possible. Obviously, they won't be able to go to many of these games, whether COVID permitting, but they'll enjoy it where possible, and more importantly, they'll probably focus a lot on that this season because they're going to want to put a good account of themselves in the competition. It will affect their Premier League form, though. They'll still win games. They'll still perform well. They'll still have players that will be important for them, but they've not they've not brought in a striker to replace Sebastian Haller yet. They still need to, I think, they still need a midfielder of Lingard's ilk who can drive forward and encourage them to play a lot better in the final third. Whether they go in for him or not before the window shuts is up to them. Really, we set the offer for them. They should have gone and paid for it if they wanted him so badly. But frankly, their Europa League run will affect them. So 9th place is a modest position for me, and it's why why I think. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's fair. Actually, I actually forgot about the whole Europa League situation with them. Yeah. So we'll swap West Ham and Arsenal around.
Yeah, my bad. I hadn't swapped them yet. Okay, so we have West Ham 10th, and I need to make sure I don't cock it up. We got 10th place West Ham, and Arsenal in 9th. There we go. So. 9th. There we go. So now we are in the gritty pit of the show, everybody, where we predict the 8 positions of variable importance.
Yeah.
These are the positions now that will determine whether we are football nerds or football idiots.
I think we both know the answer to that. I am definitely an idiot. You might be a nerd actually. You might have some good knowledge in there, Ahmed. But my Euros prediction showed I'm quite stupid. So,
I mean, I think I picked France to win the Euros and had Italy in the final, but yeah, I wouldn't claim to be a nerd as much as I would like to. I just waffle in front of a microphone for a living nowadays. But anyway, eighth place.
So what I'm going to do again, I'm thinking 8th and 7th at the same time because there's two teams we haven't said that are going to be in these positions unless you're about to say something completely crazy.
Okay, I want to hear yours first.
So 8th I've gone Leeds and 7th I've gone Aston Villa.
That's horrible for Leeds. We're not supposed to like him, but that's horrible for Leeds to miss out on European football. That is painful. All right, Leeds.
So Leeds, really great side. Really impressed by the manager. They've got multiple goal scorers in Bamford and Rodrigo. They've got good wide players like Rafinha. And they're just a really solid team. They play really well every week pretty much. And I think they'll step on a bit this year. There's no real evidence to suggest to me they're going to dip. I'm worried about playing them at Old Trafford on Saturday. I'm worried they're going to turn up and ruin both of our days. They will both be there. Yeah, I mean, I if I was a Leeds fan, I'd be very optimistic. So yeah, I've put them 8th. Aston Villa, I mean, wow, what a transfer window. They sold one of the most probably overrated footballers this country's ever seen for £100 million.
We're supposed to say that now, by the way, everybody. We've been sworn to, from henceforth, refer to him as we like to say here in the South, as an op. So the Love Island Lanzini of all people.
Yeah, Love Island Lanzini. You know, they got 100 million for him, and they've invested it in Danny Ings, Buendia, and Leon Bailey. They've also brought in Ashley Young and Axel Tuanzebe. It's a really impressive window. It's a window that I feel takes them from mid-table mediocrity to knocking on the door of Europe or being in the Conference League, I believe.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm so impressed by that window. I think their team is now better than before when they had Grealish. And yeah, so I think so Leeds 8th, Aston Villa 7th. Ahmed, what are your thoughts before we move on to 5th and 6th?
Yeah, just bear with me. Poor Johnston got beaten by Galatasaray there in the Conference League. Horrible luck for them. Reece Devine is on loan there from our club, so that's why I had a peep at their result this evening. Yeah, our predictions for 7th and 8th. I think they're roughly about right, but I mentioned already that's why I think Arsenal are aiming to just get themselves back into that area where they can contest for a European spot. They won't want the Europa League or the Conference League. I know they're not good enough for the Champions League anyway, but that's where they want to be. The modest Arsenal fan will tell you now that we should really be in that race. But the teams that you've put there, Alexei, that's roughly about right for me. I think Leeds have had a good first season in the Premier League, acquitted themselves like we expected them to, really. I don't think you would have asked for anything different from a Marcelo Bielsa's side. We gave them a high pedestal to begin with when they arrived in the league, and they sort of took it and said, okay, we're going to take this and see what we can make of the materials you've handed over. They made good signings last season. They've brought in a decent left back in Junior Firpo. He's got capability to play in midfield. Has that Barcelona ability. Under Bielsa, he'll become a top class player. Maybe even better. Who knows? Yeah, they'll probably. But it's a shame they'll miss out on Europe based on this prediction. They'll miss out by the hair's breadth, I think, against a Villa side who, yes, they've let go of Grealish, and just based on the mood of Christian Perez, it was clear that he wasn't happy to see it happen, but explained that it was a promise they kept, that Jack asked them to let him move on if the right offer came in for him from a Champions League club. And, City obliged and gave him the money. So they went to spend it. They spent it wisely on 3 top attacking midfielders and two attacking midfielders and a striker. If they can get Todd Cantwell in from Norwich, I think that'll be a front four worth fearing in this league. Yeah, I think European spot's a good opportunity for them. They're a side that have been out of Europe now for over 11 years. They've not played since their UEFA Cup run. That's a lot under Martin O'Neill. That feels like so long ago.
God, that was a while ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, was it the team of Lawson, literally quite young, Ashley Young. Emil Heskey was in that team. Sam Petrov. They had a great team there. They were for me a decent side in the Premier League at the time.
Yeah, they were good. They were really knocking on the door of the top four for a while, weren't they? Under Martin O'Neill.
Yeah, that's a shame.
But yeah, I think we've got those nailed on those positions. I think, to be honest, in the whole video, they're the two positions that I think make the most sense. They just seem completely foolproof. Fingers crossed.
Right,
but we'll move on to 6th and 5th. So
these are Europa League group stage spots, Alexei, because of how well English teams have done in Europe recently. We've earned 2 group stage positions. Now, 7th place only goes to the Conference League, but if there's a cup winner from outside 5th and 6th in the League or FA Cup, then the 6th place, they go in and 6th place misses out. So bear that in mind when you make this prediction. But let's say Man City clean up again. Who do you think 5th and 6th will be?
Right, so I've gone for 6th as Spurs and 5th as Leicester City.
Oh, I hate that you've broken their hearts again. No, poor Leicester. Poor old Leicester City.
It's every year for them, isn't it?
It's a routine now. They're going to start having nightmares about it.
It really is a routine, but it's a sign of how far they've come as a football club that they're coming 5th every year, isn't it? But I think Spurs, I mean, to be honest, like whether they lose Kane or not, they came, 7th when he was there. They're not doing much, are they, Spurs? Although, to be fair, they have made some decent signings, in fairness. I'm being a bit flippant. The signings they brought in I've been really impressed by, but I think it's going to take a while for Nuno to really adapt with this group of players. And with this Kane situation obviously hanging over them, it's not great for morale. But I think, to be fair, I think Tottenham will be better than they were last season in terms of their performances. And obviously they won't have the Mourinho meltdown stuff, but because of they're a victim of the teams above them are just so much better, I think. And Leicester recruitment has been superb. The signings they've brought in the summer have been amazing. They managed to keep hold of everyone else. Obviously, Fofana got injured, but Vestergaard is coming in. And I think they'll come 5th again. And without meaning to sound too patronising to them, I think that's amazing for them. I think they're a really well-run club. And what are your thoughts?
My expression may tell you 1,000 things, Alexei, and this is what I think is the real deal here. I think Leicester will be in the Champions League next season.
Oh,
either by winning the Europa League, because they've now won 2. Right, just bear with me. Either winning the Europa League, because you can't not overlook them after winning 2 trophies now. They've got that winning feeling at the club to win domestic trophies. I think they'll be in the Champions League next season. Whether it's through doing that in the Europa League or one of the top 4 has a horrible season and misses out on the Champions League. That's how I feel, because it's long overdue that they are in the competition again. To miss out in 2019-20 was simply put because of Manchester United's desperation and Chelsea's, more or less recovering towards the end, and more or less Chelsea recovering their season right at the very end to secure 2nd, 3rd, and 4th spot. And, obviously United were doing the job on the day against Leicester to deny them that opportunity. Last season was their season. I think that was the one where you felt they got it in the bag this time. you think there and then Liverpool were having a horrible season. They were nowhere near, for 10 more games remaining, obviously, Liverpool were nowhere near the Champions League. You could have thought they'd have been in the Europa Conference League for what it was worth. Chelsea were all over the place but before Tuchel came in. So at the time, Leicester were literally going to be a Champions League side. Then they lost to Chelsea, and then Spurs came over and turned them over on the final day of the season, just so that they can get into Europe, while Chelsea was still being beaten by a relatively comfortably by Villa. It was very surprising, and I was not happy at the outcome for Leicester, because they deserved that Champions League. They deserved a shot at being in the top competition again. Whether they got out of the group stage or not was a different matter altogether. But in the end, Liverpool won 10 games in a row to get into the competition. And that for them probably was their only source of success to get back into the competition, was to win all the remaining Premier League games. They did that. Chelsea somehow, I would say, scraped in because of their fortunes in the league, but bloody went on to win it. So Leicester will feel hard done by. I think this season they'll be in the top 4. I won't disagree tonight on their 5th spot, but I don't think that'll be where they finish this season, in my honest opinion. While I think the top 4 we have left, which is evident now, are the top 4 for this season. One of them falls out, I think Leicester will not miss out this opportunity again.
Oh, yeah. I actually agree with you on that, in the sense of saying, like, if one of those 4 are to kind of have a dip, I completely agree. I think Leicester will take advantage.
It's a hard one. I feel hard for them.
We have a question. Neek Sport here asks, where do you have Arsenal? We have Arsenal in 9th, I believe.
Yes. Yeah. Now, initially, we had them 10th. But I argued for Arsenal fans, they don't, even without European football, that's not where they should finish. They should really play, they should be much higher in the end than where we've put them tonight. But that's just based on 1, the incomings they've made so far, 2, the current squad, and 3, the general vibe of the club right now. Because to summarize, I said earlier on, you can go back into the video when I made my prediction on Arsenal on what I think. But to summarize it, I think Arsenal, for me, should really be a side that must be in the top 6. They're not a big 6 club right now because of the way Tottenham and Leicester have overhauled them in the last 2 to 3 seasons. However, I just can't see how, even without European football, they can improve on 8th place finishes.
Yeah, that's it. There's no evidence that they'll be better than last year. I mean, Ahmed did actually stick up for Arsenal a bit, because I originally put them 10th.
It's why I literally moved them up. We've moved them up just 1 spot, because West Ham have a Europa League run this season. They don't have a squad. So I tell you more, but as I stressed, you can go back into the video to hear my thoughts on Arsenal and why they should finish 9th this season, and probably a fair assessment of what they probably will do. He's a bold man. He's just said Chelsea will be 1st, City to be 2nd, United 3rd, and Liverpool 4th, unless Manchester City get Kane. Then you swap the top 2 around. Mate, you've got some big kahunas there. Honestly,
he's not crazy, because we might as well come on to the top 4 now. He's not completely crazy, because you could make a case actually for Chelsea, City, or United finishing 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. I think,
because we could spend, as I said earlier on, this is what makes us sit out for hours on end discussing the niches of each side when it comes to the top 4. We all know they're in the Champions League, but what we don't know is where they'll finish.
We'll start with 4th, because I think 4th is the only position that we'll probably agree on, I believe. I'm going to go with Liverpool. I don't know what you think about that.
I may have made a slight error. Let me just put Brentford back into 16th position there. That was a mistake on my part. So, yes, Liverpool to be fourth.
I just think that their actual first 11 has not progressed from when they won the league 2 years ago. The squad's too thin.
They've made one signing, and that's
they've made one signing. They've not replaced Wijnaldum. We don't know how Van Dijk and Gomez are going to recover. Robertson's out injured, and yeah, I think Jurgen Klopp's done a brilliant job. But if I was him, I would have gone last summer because, like, yeah, you got them back. You've got them third or whatever. Great, just go out then because I think it's going to be difficult for him because their depth is so small, and the fact United, City, and Chelsea are beefing up so much their squad makes it really hard for Liverpool. And we saw Firmino's form drop off a cliff last season. Mane wasn't great. I think Salah will still be brilliant, but it's very crazy when you think how good they were a couple of years ago, putting Liverpool fourth. But that's what I think. Ahmed, what do you think?
Well, when I went to Liverpool last season and worked at their game against FC Midtjylland, the vibe around the club was they were still obviously buzzing from their title win. And, who can fault them? Because you wait 30 odd years to win a Premier League title. You're obviously going to milk it for what it's worth. And when I arrived at Anfield on the very first day, they had a massive gold text above the main entrance for the players, which says Premier League champions 2019-2020. And for them, it was something that I think for them meant more than just the text that was written on. It had a meaning for it because, well, they owned that title just being the best team in England that time. And it was the 1 year Man City properly fell off and struggled to really make up the ground on a side that had been ridiculously consistent in 2018-19 and continued that. They had a positive vibe. Their squad was looking good. But this was the Michelin game I'm referring to was after Van Dijk's injury, and they were still feeling the after effects of it. In that same game, they lost Fabinho and had to bring on a centre back. There was a lot of players on the pitch that put a decent performance in, like Jota, like Arnold. And it's the last time I saw Liverpool play with my own. It was actually the first 2 times I see Liverpool play with my own eyes. The second one was against Spurs. And they put in a much more effective and professional performance that night. If we see that Liverpool again this season, I think they'll be cemented as a top 4 side. But if that Liverpool that comes into let's say, if the Liverpool we saw midway through last season towards, let's say, the point where before they started winning again, returns to our TV screens or however we see them. If they keep playing as they did in that period during the mid-season, I don't see how Leicester are going to let them stay away from staying top 4 for very long. So they can't afford to lose Van Dijk and Gomez again, even though they brought in Ibrahima Konate, who I think they did that just to have one more top-class option in their centre-half compartment. Yes, Wijnaldum is a big loss for them. They would have liked to have replaced him this summer, but they simply haven't been as active as they normally are in the transfer market, and replacing them. Maybe there was a feeling that they did too much last season when it came to signings. So they felt, we're defending our Premier League title here. We really don't have to improve the team so much. So, I personally believe we should stick with them 4th, unless they have a mad season and the front 3 score and a number of goals that people we can't imagine. There we go.
Yeah, they're going to have a superb season to come above 4th or 3rd, I think. Connor in the comments saying, if I don't see United at top of this, I'll never watch again. Well, Connor, I'm with you. If Ahmed doesn't agree to put United first, I'm never coming on here again.
I might as well quit. That's how bad it is. But remember, we're trying to not only appease ourselves, but at the same time, we do live in something called reality. And as much as we would like to defame that, it's a little tricky to look
All
at
right.
what we're about to say. Third place is Chelsea.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go with Chelsea.
Chelsea. Let's.
Well, do you know what? The top three could be in any order. And to be fair, if I wasn't a United fan, I'd probably put Chelsea further up, but I am, so I'm going to be biased. It's just how it is. Chelsea have just won the Champions League. They have a very good squad and a very good manager. And they've added Romelu Lukaku to that. Now, the limitation is I do wonder if sometimes they might struggle breaking down smaller teams, which has been a problem for them. You can't guarantee that Lukaku is going to be brilliant because of Chelsea's record with number 9s and strikers. It's not always worked out. But yeah, I can't really say anything bad about them, really. They've got a great side, good manager and everything. And yeah, it's one of them. They could easily come third or win the league. But we have put them third because there's a certain team we want to put higher, I think. But
in my actual predictions, Alexei, I put them second. My personal predictions, but because we're a Man United channel, we do have to sort of balance the act here a bit in our club's favour.
21's coming.
Briefly on Chelsea. Watching them last night against Villarreal, we saw elements of them that will give teams hope playing against them this season, but will also worry teams that are going against them this season. The Chelsea we saw in the first 25-30 minutes of that game was the Chelsea I think that would be a fair call for a Premier League title shot this season. But the Chelsea in the second half, when in that little spell where Villarreal put pressure on them and ultimately earned their equaliser, demonstrates that in games like that, if they're not able to break down sides that sit deep and narrow the space between midfield and attack, also cutting passes out on the edge of the area, they're not going to be a team as feared as much. Give them space to work with, give Mount space to work with, and Lukaku space to run into. Enjoy your football, boys and girls, because you're going to see a lot of goals this season. But they can't overly rely on just Lukaku for their goals. Outside of that, I think their top scorer last season was Jorginho, I think it was, yeah?
7 goals, yeah. Which is really bizarre, isn't it? Really.
A midfielder was 7 goals, like minimum 10. Yes, Jorginho's had a terrific year. We'll give that to him. He's had a great year. Probably the only player, in fact, he's the only player that, to my knowledge, has won all 4 men's club UEFA competitions. So he is one of the few national and men's club competitions. I think the only one that's missing now for him is the Nations League, and Italy are in that competition. So he's had a great year. He's a focal point to Chelsea's side now, and fans now really do rate him for what he is. So he's become in my opinion, as important as N'Golo Kante, for example.
And the fact they have both of them is a difference between their team and our team. If we could take one of Jorginho or Kante and put them in our team, I think. I mean, final thought on Chelsea from me. What I would just say is for them to go from where they came last season in 4th on 60-odd points to coming 2nd or 1st, they're going to have to improve quite a lot.
Yeah.
Obviously, they are capable of that, but there is a difference between knockout football and league football, because I think, they won the Champions League in 2012 and Liverpool won in 2005 with not great teams. I think this Chelsea team is better than both of those teams, definitely. But it doesn't necessarily follow on that a team doing well in a knockout competition guarantees they'll do well in the league. I think they will do really well this season, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they will come first in the league, because it's very different having to be consistent across 38 games than obviously a knockout competition. But that is the one negative I'd say for Chelsea. But I think they'll do fine this season. Second place is a club from Manchester. I mean, they are situated kind of on that side near Piccadilly Station. two of their most famous fans are a member of a band called Oasis. They have no fans. They are owned by an oil kind of firm, you could say. Their manager is, you could argue, a bit of a fraud. So second place in the Premier League will go to Man City.
I can't believe what we're doing here.
That means that first place will go to Man United.
All right, Alexei, before I lose my mind, why have we put City second?
I'll tell you for why. All right, they're a bunch of frauds. Honestly,
we know that
100 million. Nah. No, but do you know what I do genuinely think is it's very, very difficult to keep winning leagues and retaining them every year. Now, they brought in Grealish so far. Bringing Grealish doesn't change how I view City personally. They already had amazing creative forwards like Mahrez, Bernardo, Sterling, De Bruyne, all brilliant players, Foden, all brilliant players. Grealish for me doesn't really change the way I feel about City. He's an all right player. He's good, but he doesn't transform them for me. I think Ruben Diaz will have a much worse season than the last one. We saw at the Euros, he got exposed a bit. He won't be as good as he was in his first season. They might be more unlucky with injuries at the back in particular, which might hamper them. And also, you know, teams have a sell-by date. They can't keep winning forever. You know, even United sides who are really great had a dip. I think they will have a dip again, potentially. Even if they bring in Kane, it will take a while to adjust him into the system. I think he'll be brilliant for them. He'll score loads of goals, but I think it will take a while. Grealish, he won't be playing a lot this season. When City sign new players, they tend to gradually ease them in, like with Mahrez or Bernardo. It will take a while for Grealish to be have all his natural fun footballing abilities drained out of him and turn into one of Guardiola's robots, because that's what's going to happen. And yeah, I just think as well, like, you know, 21's coming, isn't it? So that's what I think. But no, I honestly, you never know. So I'm going to go, City second. And yeah, we'll discuss who's first in a second. But what do you think about the second place in our predictions, Ahmed? You look very
I'm
confused.
trying my best to find Varane being confirmed as our signing right now. I've been constantly scrolling Twitter all night long since we heard that he signed a contract. So is someone at Old Trafford right now? Please answer their phone so you can announce the Frenchman. Thank you very much. I'm worried that he may not be registered for Saturday. Why is Manchester City second? Now, to remind you all, as I said earlier on, I made personal predictions that I will show you a screenshot of at the end of this, which will explain why I think each team is finished in the top four at least, why I think they'll finish where they finish. But for this channel, because we are a Man United channel, City finishing second is a principle I think we followed on the basis that, yes, Alexei's right, you don't see teams very often win back-to-back Premier League titles in this era. In the last decade alone, even Manchester United could not defend back-to-back titles. We won ours sporadically. One season we were second, next season we won it. One season we were second, albeit thanks to an Argentine. Next year we won it. So in that first 4 years or 3 years of the 10s, we didn't defend our title as we should have done back-to-back. And then you look further ahead, Chelsea, City, Leicester, Chelsea, City, and Liverpool, City. So you only see City do back-to-back once, but it was very hard for them to do it, and it proved the following season. They went on last season now, they went on a 25-match winning run, ended by United at the Etihad. So that showed United's credentials against Manchester City on the day. On top of which, you're looking now at a City side that already perfectly balanced and have strengthened in attack. One or two injuries to a couple of their key players opens up a world of opportunities for the teams in and around them in the top four. So for them to win the league, if they win the league again this season, they'll win it on the basis that they still had their main players available to them at the time. But I don't think they're exactly going to be too fussed about the Premier League if they win it again this season. They are still reeling from the pain of losing to the Champions League final to Chelsea. They're not happy about that. And it's why the ownership have gone, full Super Saiyan angry and, lost their minds to go out and buy two of England's biggest stars in Grealish and or go out to potentially get Harry Kane as well. Their eyes are firmly fixed on winning the Champions League for me. If the only team that can stop them is Paris Saint-Germain, and that for me is a hard thing to. In fact, no, PSG and Bayern are the only teams that for me that can stop them, because Bayern Munich will be wanting to go one better this season in the Champions League after not defending their title particularly well. You'd also expect the standard of PSG now, obviously because of the incomings of the holy saint Sergio Ramos and god of football Lionel Messi. Those two coming in changes the dynamic of who's the favourites are winning the competition tenfold. There is a realistic feeling, though, that if Man City do one up one of those teams this season, they'll win the competition. And they'll use last year's defeat as motivation to give Guardiola the chance to enjoy that success with a club he's wanted to win it with for so long now, ever since arriving 5 years ago in Manchester. So, Eastlands this season, probably again a cacophony of party football. Where will they drop points? I don't know. Maybe inside top four. Maybe that's probably where I think they'll drop the points. Realistically, you need to lose 4 or 5 games to lose the title.
Well, they could lose. They could. Would it surprise you if they lost 2 games to Chelsea? No, it wouldn't.
No.
Would it surprise you if they lost 2 games to United? I don't think it would. Would it surprise you if they lost to Liverpool in a one-off game? I don't think it really would it? So, in recent years, Solskjaer, Tuchel, and Klopp have all managed to beat Guardiola quite a few times. So it's very conceivable they'll drop points. So, they're not invincible. Obviously, I think it's difficult because I think if we had a holding midfield, I would actually be really, really confident in this. This is obviously more kind of an optimistic side of me, but I just think
there's still 18 days to go, Alexei. Don't worry.
But why not be optimistic? We're going to a season with really good players and a manager we love and fans are back. Let's have a bit of optimism. So first place is a side called Manchester United. They originally formed as Newton Heath, little known club. Yeah, I think we're winning the league. And the moment I know I'm going to be really convinced we're winning the league is when I'm stood in the Stretford end before the game starts singing. And yeah, I can guarantee we're winning the league then. No, I just think we've strengthened really well this summer. Sancho is a brilliant signing. We sorted out the right wing that's been needing to sort out for about 12 years. Same with centre half, about 8 years. And I think the importance of the Varane signing is it can mean that we can potentially afford to only play one holding midfielder in certain situations because he starts quite high up the pitch anyway, his recovery ability. So we could maybe see a team of Fred, Pogba and Bruno midfield. And that's sensational if it works. With that added protection of Varane. I think that could be incredible. Really good attacking depth. Martial, Cavani, Rashford, Sancho, Greenwood, really, really good players. Luke Shaw is like one of the best left backs in the world. Maguire's one of the best centre backs in the world. For me, the 2 positions are holding midfielder and goalkeeper. But I think Henderson will play, and having Varane and Henderson coming in if we want to play on the front foot, it really makes sense because of the way they are. They're good at playing high up the pitch and everything. Yeah, I think this could be the year that 21 does finally come. We were quite close last year. If to be honest, if we'd really put our minds to it, we could have won it last year. There was some stupid points we dropped. Do you know what I mean? Like there were some games that were just so stupid. If we really had put our minds to it, we could have won it last year.
I think Ollie had that mentality, knowing that when we went top against Burnley, Ollie knew there and then that this is not. It wasn't necessarily ours to lose. We knew City were the team to beat, and we knew that they were the side that had everything to lose when it came to this title, when it came to winning the league. Where it went wrong for me in terms of, obviously, as you've just stated, for Manchester United, was obviously dropping silly points in that mid part of the season.
Sheffield United, West Brom. I mean, God, those.
What was it? Palace. Arsenal, yeah. Arsenal, Sheffield United, West Brom, Everton, Palace.
So if we win those, if we win those games, we win the league.
Yeah. Or we either that or we finish a point or two behind Man City.
That's how simple it is.
Yeah.
And so if we analyze it individually, that 3-3 with Everton, that goal at the end doesn't happen with Varane. It just doesn't. It also doesn't happen with the goalkeeper.
Or if the referee blows his whistle on the 94th minute.
Yeah, exactly. Or the goalkeeper who comes out to claim the ball. You could argue Varane wouldn't have got bullied the way I think it was Lindelof got bullied against West Brom, even though that was a foul.
Yeah.
Sheffield United was just one of those freak results. Obviously, that happens. But I don't think we'll be as unlucky as we were in those games this season because you make your own luck by not getting yourself into situations like we did against Everton, by having defenders who really believe in themselves, like Maguire and Varane, who were towering, who were imposing. You'd never see Van Dijk concede that goal we conceded against Everton. And now I don't think you will see Maguire or Varane doing that. And I think that's one of those games where we will sort ourselves out. And you've got to think as well, the likelihood is we're not going to lose 6-1 to Spurs again, presumably. Right? I don't want to jinx it. That won't happen again. Presumably, obviously it's possible, but I don't think we'll lose at home to Arsenal again. I just don't. So there's a lot of points to be gained. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting. But yeah, I think we have a great chance, and it's our best chance in years to win a league.
Yeah.
But we must start strong because the league can be lost in the first 5 games. It can.
It can. We have a good start for once.
We do.
We've had, I think, the last 3 seasons, we've been given, in my opinion, a bit of a tough card to begin with when it comes to the beginning of the season. This year, we don't have it as bad. We know, I think it's well known now how hard October, November is going to be for us, especially with the Champions League coming in as well. It's going to prove or test us to the point where we need to be playing near enough. I'd say near perfect football before we even start thinking about challenging for or start thinking about league titles and all that. Because before October the 2nd, Leeds, Southampton away, Wolves, Newcastle at home, West Ham away, Aston Villa at home. Those 6 games are more or less games. I think Aston Villa is going to be a test. But those first 5 games there are going to be real, let's say, real matches we really have to pay attention to. How do United play? What is the setup? How do we approach the game? Will we be playing that familiar 4-2-3-1? Are we going to be switching to 4-3-3? Those games are going to be hard to call. The Champions League is different, and I'm going to reserve our Champions League predictions for the draw, which will come in a couple weeks time. But with that, and also the League Cup as well coming into play, we have a lot of matches to play in this first 2-3 months, obviously, typical to any season. But our first 5 games is the real litmus test, the real first sight of how we're going to fare this season. Leeds will probably hope, and we hope it's the case, Leeds will be hopefully the first showing of what United are capable of. we go to Southampton, knowing what we've spoken about tonight, we should really get a result there. Wolves is always a hard away day, no matter what side they put out. Historically, we've struggled there. So we were lucky we got a win at last, even though it was on the final day of the season. It was a meaningless game, unfortunately. So it needs to have a meaning this time. And this is no time better than the present. And then Newcastle and West Ham away. West Ham will have just played their first Europa League game. So where I'd be in half a mind to think that they'll rest one or two after that or play their strongest 11, but relatively not 100% because of where they went or who they played in the Europa League. So United, for me, I think have a good start to the season. We know, as I said, it's well documented how hard it gets for us after that, and it includes our Champions League games. Come through that, and we have a decent number of points on the board. I'd say, the first 10 games of our season. We get to it then. Okay, let's say we get to November the 6th. If we're there and thereabouts, after that crazy run we have against the likes of Leicester, Liverpool, Tottenham, and Man City, if we get through that and we're still there and thereabouts, I can't see any reason for us to say we're not title contenders. So win the league, though, and I will repeat what I said last season. Unless United are first and first by far, I'm not convinced we'll win the league. So I need us to be clear by a decent margin in February, March time to start contemplating that possibility. I won't disagree, however, that this team is capable now of doing that because of the incomings of Sancho and Varane. And more importantly, the fact that Solskjaer has had 2 full seasons to knit and pick this side to his liking, to play to the standards he set for them. He's had 2 good cup campaigns in the Europa League, getting to the semis and the final. So we've grown European experience. We've got a side now that is playing for the manager. And that is more or less the focal point of this whole thing. You don't play not just to wear the shirt now. You're playing for the man that's running that team. And he will expect nothing more than 110%. People will make out that he's inept and tactically unaware. People make mistakes. Ollie's got his regrets, and he admitted openly that he regrets the decisions he made in that final on reflection now. And we'll probably be sure that he will never want to have that disappointment again. A realistic hope for me is that we will challenge for the title. Winning it while I'm ambitious and I want us to so badly is a tough call, but because 21 is coming, because Ollie's at the wheel, because because these top class players are playing for the shirt and doing everything they can to bring the success United have earned and craved for so long, they're trying their utmost to bring it back to us. Why the hell not be Premier League champions? Why not? Why the hell not? One of us wants to be at Wembley this season, so I'd like a FA Cup trophy as well. Thank you very much. I could talk all night, but there you go.
So what we'll do now, we'll just go from bottom to top, and I'll read out what we've done here. So we've gone 20th Norwich, 19th Southampton, 18th Watford, 17th Crystal Palace, 16th Brentford, 15th Burnley, 14th Newcastle, 13th Everton, 12th Wolves, 11th Brighton and Hove Albion, 10th West Ham, 9th Arsenal, 8th Leeds, 7th Aston Villa, 6th Tottenham, 5th Leicester, 4th Liverpool, 3rd Chelsea, 2nd Manchester City, and 1st Manchester United. I really do hope we are right in what we are saying here tonight.
I honestly hope we are sitting on the final game of our season is away to Crystal Palace, 22nd of May, 2022. We should really be thinking about St. Petersburg by then, to be honest. But
exactly. Busy few days.
We should really be thinking about St. Petersburg, and then the week before sack off Chelsea to play someone in the FA Cup final. But sack that one off because we would not need to worry about playing Chelsea then. No, I think it's going to be hopefully a season to remember. More importantly, a chance to prove our worth and redeem ourselves for last season's I'd say relatively disappointing failures. And I hope we're right. If we've cocked up the Euros at least, but
yeah,
I think we've got every chance to believe what we can. I believe we can do it. DJ Connor Roberts says, but no, that's up. It can't. You're right. Yes, it could be any order. It doesn't necessarily matter where, but for me, I personally think that no matter what we feel, if we feel City should win the league or not, realistically, we know they're capable of doing it, and they more or less are the team to beat. It makes sense for them to be first. It makes sense for Chelsea to be considered as a title challenger. They may push. We may have a tough season, but we're still top four. City and Chelsea will fight it out for the league. It varies. Anything can happen. Anything can happen. And that's why I feel we should be able to win the league because we have that side in our hands now. They've had time to gel. They've had time to learn each other, the niches that they all have for one another. They can understand each other's game to combine to work as a team to earn the right of being called Premier League champions. And we still have to remember there are players that didn't get time or minutes last season, or players who are coming back from loans this season who want to prove themselves. The likes of Diogo Dalot, for example, Jesse Lingard, and more importantly, Donny van der Beek. Those are three players that have a point to prove this season. And whether Lingard and Dalot are here at the end of the window or not, we don't know yet. But Van der Beek's got a point to prove, and he's worked with Solskjaer clearly to do that. And Dalot, as I said, Dalot and Lingard proved his worth going on loan to West Ham last season. And whether if he's here again at the end of the window or not is a matter of waiting to see if they're committed to giving him another chance. And finally, Dalot, because we haven't been able to get Atletico Madrid to budge on Thierry Trippier, we've really got one option, and one option is that wonderful man who wears my favourite number. So, and he's a top bloke as well. So I'm a fan of Dalot, honestly. I love the guy. He's a fabulous player. He's got a great right foot. He's a wonderful cross of the ball. Defensively, yes, there's things he can improve on as a defender, but for the position he plays, he's a very good attacking right back. And I'm an idiot once. I feel like an idiot for saying it at the time, but I felt at the time I think he could have played right wing. He could have got away playing right midfield, but we all have demands. We want nothing more than the best. So we hope United can prove us wrong. And
we hope they prove us right.
A mixture of both, and win the treble, more importantly.
Yeah.
Prove us right and wrong at the same time. Because we have our doubts for the next year, I'm sure. While we want to be optimistic from the outset, we say that United are worth every bit to be champions. We just have that lingering feeling about them.
Nah, 21's coming. No, you are right, but 21 is coming anyway, regardless.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're gonna have to wrap this up now. It's been a long one.
Yeah,
my laptop
90 minutes.
But
90-minute show. My God, we've pulled her through tonight, Alexei. We've pulled our legs through everything.
We will revisit these predictions in May. But yeah, cheers, Ahmed. It was a good chat. Thank you to everybody for watching and engaging in some of our seemingly crazy predictions. But yeah, keep watching Trafford Talk throughout the season. We'll continue to bring content out. I'm sure Robbie will wave his magic wand and sort some things out for everyone. But yeah, everyone enjoyed the Leeds game on Saturday. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait for it. Me and Ahmed, I believe, are both going to be there.
I have so much. In fact, Manchester's going to be my home for the day on Saturday. I've got 2 things to do there. I've got to be at Old Trafford for one game and then off to Salford for another. And it's a busy old day, honestly, up there. So Got plenty to do. I may not be able to see you, Alexei, on the day because how busy I am. But if I do get the chance, we'll run into each other in Manchester at some point. But
yeah, if not, I'll see you for the Newcastle game as well.
Yes,
yeah.
I hope to see you for then, if not this weekend. But thank you, yes, as always, Alexei. I appreciate you coming on, mate. Really thoroughly enjoyed scrutinising everything that is the Premier League tonight. As I said, we have a preview show for Leeds tomorrow, which we'll put live around about the same time as tonight, 8 p.m. So come and join us for that. We'll talk all about who we think will start tomorrow. We'll get thoughts from everybody else about who they think is going to be in the Premier League's big top 4 spots, and a lot more about Saturday and what to expect from Marcelo Bielsa's side. Hopefully for another 6-2, who knows, even another 9-0, dare we say. And looking ahead, obviously, more games to come. We have following on, we have Newcastle, and then we have Southampton. Then, while I think it's the big night, is the Champions League draw. It's a huge night for a reason, because that will be a live stream with a unique style to it. We'll do something similar to this, but there's more people involved, and I've got a couple of my family members who will be joining me for that stream. So, gonna be a busy one. I'd urge you to join us on the night of the 26th of August to find out who United get in the UEFA Champions League draw. So, looking ahead to those, I'm excited, and we're all looking forward to getting there. Please like, subscribe, and follow us for more on Twitter and co. We really appreciate you sticking with us this evening, and scrutinize our decisions in the comments if you want, or on Twitter. We are open to criticism of any kind. But until the next one, appreciate you all. We all hope you have a good rest of the evening, and I'll see you and hopefully the rest of everyone else tomorrow. Till then, take care.